Welcome to the Sapphic World Book Club.
Thank you for having
me. So happy you could join us in this ungodly hour for you in New Zealand.
It's not too bad. I'm usually awake by now, but I'm usually still in bed because obviously it's winter and it's so windy this morning.
I have a question that we chatted a little about in book club. One of the things that I really noticed in Lexi's recount of her kind of traumatic story when she was captured, I noticed both in the portrayal of PTSD as she was kind of going through that experience, but also in Sophia's handling of that. She seemed quite experienced with PTSD, like she understood it well and how to interact with somebody who is struggling with that or having flashbacks, that sort of thing. I'm curious both about your decision to kind of relive that moment, to have Sophia be so understanding of PTSD and seemingly comfortable with it. But also, somebody mentioned the Ask Tell series, and you've got a lot of PTSD in there. And I'm curious about what kinds of research that you did into PTSD to be able to portray it that well.
Okay. I'm sorry to disappoint. As a pantser, I didn't plan anything about Sophia being PTSD knowledgeable. Her reaction to Lexi, I think, is just Sophia being Sophia. But I am just going to pretend that Sophia's father has PTSD because he is a war veteran, and so she knows how to deal with it like that. So let's pretend that I planned something really, really great when I did not. It was just Sophia being Sophia, basically, and her natural empathetic reaction to that, the way that I would react to somebody who just told me a horrible story like that. And as to sort of the Lexi's retelling of it, I guess that's a little bit of indulgence on my part because I enjoy writing that sort of emotion. It's incredibly difficult, but it's also incredibly, I wouldn't say pleasurable, because it's not. It's the opposite of that. But it makes me feel emotional, and I actually kind of enjoy that. That's what I enjoy about writing. I enjoy the feeling that I get through each scene, like the high action, the romance, the not so fun parts. So that was probably why, instead of just saying, I was held hostage and stabbed and I don't want to talk about it, I decided to, go through and sort of give a bit more of a visceral, emotive, join in with the feelings kind of recounting of it instead of that. Yeah.
All right. I'm impressed at how well it flows for being that
good.
You hadn't put any planning into that. So that makes sense. I see what you're saying. It is kind of almost an emotional indulgence because some of the story is kind of like at a distance, especially because Lexi's got to keep all these secrets. So there is kind of this distance that you feel, but that gets us zoomed up really, really close. So I can totally see that.
Can you just, my cat doesn't want to sleep on my wife. She wants to come into the cold office. I'm just going to grab her. Sorry.
That's just funny.
No, she didn't want that. She just wanted to chirp at me and then run away. So
okay, I have a question.
Yes.
From Evie Bancroft. She says, given that you say that you never plot a novel, how did you go about planning 3 novels, and did you keep to your plan?
So I broke my rule a little bit on this one. I actually wrote down a rough outline chapter by chapter. I'm very embarrassed about it. And I did that because it was so complex and so convoluted that I decided if I didn't sort of have some vague idea of how it might fit together, then it would just end up a rambling mess. So it's a little rambling mess, but not a long rambling mess at the moment. I think I kind of stuck to the plan. I am in the middle of just doing my final read through of the second book, Leverage, which comes out in November, like right now, last minute. And I think it's pretty true to what I wrote down. And the third book, which is currently titled Fortitude, is only got about 10,000 words written in it. So I don't know, I'll probably end up changing my mind. But yeah, no, I did write out a little plan for this one as a series. So, but not for any of my other novels, no, not my standalone ones, because just doesn't suit me.
Will you change the POV for the book 2 and 3?
No, all three of them are Lexi's single point of view, and I have had some people express to me that they would like to see Sophia's point of view, but it's not Sophia's story. It's Lexi's, you know, she's the protagonist, you know, it's like a Jason Bourne or a, you know, all those other action dudes. I can't think of an action chick in a book, which is terrible. Blame 6:30 in the morning for that one. It's you know, they follow the same point of view the entire way through. James Bond, you know, all that sort of stuff. So yeah, no, just Lexi's story with Sophia as the secondary main character. Yeah.
So will the full series focus on the like incident from book 1? Does that span the full?
It is in book 2 as a sort of, and it's hard because as in with Us Tell, I sort of had to series are really hard, guys. They're really hard for me because it's how much do you explain? How much do you trust that someone's read the first book or the second book? So it does have ramifications into book 2 for sure. But book 3, that's not a spoiler, focuses on a task that Halcyon, am I saying Halcyon right? Halcyon, that's right, isn't it? Yeah, cool. I need to stop. I keep saying it, I've got to stop having titles with words I don't know how to pronounce. It's a task that they give to Lexi, which is vaguely alluded to with Lexi's importance in book 1 and why she sort of, you know, did this thing and then the government was like, cool, okay, see ya. Yeah, so it's ramifications of Berenson's little boo-boo in book 2, and then some sort of other stuff, and then yeah, book 3 is Lexi's importance and the big finale. So, and I doubt that I think it's just going to be 3 books, yeah, because yeah, trying to put another one, it might kill me.
Oh, let's see. Sorry, that meant someone else. Let's see. Claire Jackson wants to know: do you enjoy that you make people feel emotional and have strong reactions to the stories?
Yeah, absolutely. Writing often feels like shouting into the void. You know, you're sort of by yourself, just, you know, staring at the screen all the time, making emotions by yourself, and it's probably one of the most rewarding parts of my job is to be aware that people have responded to my work in some way, and that they felt something about it, good, bad, indifferent, you know, but it's my favorite thing. So yeah, I do enjoy it very, very much. And I think if I didn't have that, I honestly probably wouldn't do it anymore. In the beginning, I wrote because I felt like I had stories in me, and now, yeah, it's getting harder to sort of think of things to write about at the moment. So yeah, that sort of gives me a little bit of a push to keep writing. Yeah.
I've got a question from Sarah. Sorry,
Oh.
go ahead.
No, go.
Sarah says, of all the books you've written, which character would you say you identify with or relate to the most? And who is the most fulfilling to write?
Ooh. That's a hard question. I think I probably relate to Sabine Fleischer the most, but without like the super smartness. And I guess that's probably why she popped out of my head as my debut, because she's the most like me. like a little bit weird, a little bit neurotic, a little bit irreverent and all that sort of stuff. And for the most fulfilling, I would have to honestly say I don't know. I find them all fulfilling, which I know sounds like a cop-out, but you know, all my characters have bits of me, even, you know, the side characters or the secondary main characters, I should say. And so, yeah, they all bring something, and they all, oh, it sounds so cliche and a bit sappy, but they all sort of, you know, I give them a little bit of myself and they take a little bit of me with them when they are no longer on my computer. So yeah, I'm sorry to not answer that properly.
That was an interesting answer anyway.
Yeah, it's those ones are always hard. It's like, you know, I love them all. I know it sounds terrible, but it does sound like a cop out, but I really do. Yeah. I just want to say I hate the end of a question where I've finished answering and I'm just sort of going. So I just always feel really, really awkward over Zoom because there's like this little lag where I'm like, okay, someone can keep talking. So I look a bit like
background music next time.
like little elevator music, and then cut it off so I know that it's time to talk.
I have a question from Jamie. Let's just keep going. Are we going to get a deeper look into Sophia and who she is in the next books?
I'm not sure what you mean by deep, but I feel like I probably do. And I'm afraid to say no, probably not. She's always going to be a secondary character. And like with all of my single point of view books, the reader gets to know the love interest through the eyes of the main character, which I know is not a popular sort of thing for romance, but it's how I do. It's so like she's not going to be, you know, like a two-dimensional character, I hope. But no, we're not going to get a massive deep dive into Sophia's psyche because Lexi wouldn't have that. She has what she knows from what she gets back from Sophia in a relationship, which is how we as humans operate. You know, we don't know what everyone else is always thinking, and that's how I justify to myself that it's okay to just do single POV books like I do. So.
What inspired you to write a book about spies? I mean, not spies.
Not spies.
Awesome.
It just came to me the way that most of my novels do, just random, you know, brain thoughts. And I thought it'd be really, really cool to have a female, you know, if you've ever seen the Jason Bourne movies, which I liked because of Franca Potente. And sorry, Chris, that I probably pronounced her surname wrong. And I wanted a cool female sort of thing. And then originally for like 5 seconds, Lexi was a spy. And then I realized that the way I wanted to do it would just didn't work. And so she became a not spy. Yeah, it was just, I thought it'd be a cool idea. And so I wrote it. Yeah. But this one did take a long time from being written to publication because I just kept setting it aside because it didn't feel good. It felt really, really convoluted, and just like it was never going to work. And so I just sort of got a little bit in my own head about actually publishing it because I just thought it was too out there. But thankfully I got over that. So.
Sabrina wants to know, what was it like to write a character with such high moral standards who at the same time has to lie and manipulate on a daily basis?
Incredibly difficult. Really, really hard. I mean, part of Lexi's morals are me. I actually discussed this with my wife yesterday. We were on a run and we go around this is irrelevant, but I'm going to tell you anyway. We sort of go around a reservoir and it's a really thin track. And so you often encounter people with dogs or just, you know, walking together. And I'm really, really like, I'm manners, you know, like just being a good person, you know, like if someone's walking towards you, you know, you go single file, but I would say probably 9 times out of 10, you know, people just end up blocking the path and you've got to sort of shimmy around them or their dogs come at you and stuff like that. And I had this discussion yesterday about, you know, how you know, why are people so rude, you know, because I always thank people if they move over to the side so I can run past and all that sort of stuff. So, you know, part of that sort of, you know, morality is of Lexi's is my sort of own, I guess, a little bit self-righteous, like, you know, be a good person and, you know, do everything you can to, you know, be an upstanding citizen. And then to have her sort of have to turn around and be so duplicitous was difficult, but what was really difficult was justifying that to the reader. And I think part of it, I can just say, hey, you know, haha, it's fiction. But, you know, there needs to be something for the reader to hold on to in that sort of feeling, to sort of say, well, you know, I could see, you know, yeah, she's great, but she's also, you know, being a bit, you know, how can she do this to Sophia and that sort of stuff. So the justification of, and that's sort of where Halcyon came in, where I needed her to have like a set, sort of something separate where it was like, okay, she literally has no choice and she must do this, and sort of just cross my fingers that came across the way I had intended it to come across. So yeah.
Is Halcyon based on something real? D-Rox wants to know.
I wouldn't know if it did because I'm not American, and I don't know anything about secret American divisions. So maybe they've got something, but I highly doubt it. I'm pretty sure it's just my brain thought of something that was like, hey, yeah, this will sort of help explain things a little bit. Yeah. So
I have a question. I know you mentioned having people help by reading the novel, and that there were a bunch of things in there related to being a not spy that you had to change because it was like, this will never happen. I'm really curious what kinds of things you had there that you had to change, or like what was maybe before you had it this way and then after you had it that way. I'm curious about that.
So when I had one person in particular who I just asked some questions, like I said, you know, would you bring a laptop home? And she was like, fuck no, like that, you just do not take anything out, you know, like I still don't know where this person worked, if they worked for the CSI, CIA, the NSA, anything like that. I have no idea what they did. And oftentimes they would just say, I can't answer that, which I actually thought was pretty funny. And so originally Lexi brought her work home, and sort of then it sort of escalated from there, and she was threatened and off she went, and there was no Halcyon. There was none whatsoever in the first sort of like iteration of it. And then this person sort of said, well, that won't work, they don't do that, you couldn't do that, you can't do that. And I just went, fuck, well, I've already written this story, I really want to write it, I want to continue it, so what am I going to do? So ta-da, that's how Halcyon was born. Because I thought, well, she needs to have she needs someone to say, well, you've got to deal with this. So there's also a little line in there which sorry, often a lot of my stuff is a little bit self-indulgent, and it's about how it would have been so much easier if she had have, I think Derek asked her if she took the work home with her, and she's like, you know, how dare you, like, question, you know, of course I didn't. But she sort of says something like, I wish I had have, you know, it would have been so much easier. And that was me just going like, it would have been so much easier if she had have just, you know, and, you know, no, I had to think of, you know, like Bink and all this other sort of stuff. But I think it's a funner sort of concept with Halcyon in the background. And it's also given me the concept for mostly book 3 and a little bit of book 2. So yeah, but I still don't think I know absolutely anything like much about intelligence agencies in America. So very secretive, surprisingly. Yeah.
Go ahead, Caroline.
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's see. Evie Bancroft wants to know, how did you go about researching the clandestine details of the book?
Some of it was from, I then spoke to another person who worked in intelligence, who gave me some more details, obviously without giving me details. Just little funny things, you know, like I wanted to, you know, just know about day-to-day stuff. So I got a little bit from there, but mostly I would say it's probably like 90% imagination and 10% Google. There are some things, there's a book, I think it's called by Tracy someone, I think it's called My Life as a Spy, and it's a bit dry, but you know, there's some sort of stuff about that. She worked in weapons of mass destruction, I think. You know, if you Google enough, you can sort of get a little bit, a little snippet that you can then build on. So it was mostly just Google and imagination. So yeah, because, you know, like I said, they don't just tell you how they operate, which from a me perspective is really annoying. You know, because yes, I do say this a lot, that I'm incredibly bad at reading comprehension. You know, like I hate, don't give me a contract to read, like, you know, that's my wife's job. And bad at asking people for help. So, you know, it does just then have to, I've got to bridge the gap between those two worlds with my brain. So.
Do you think you are on the CIA watch list from all the Googling?
I
Claire,
probably am.
no?
Where are all the spies? Can I talk to a spy? Can
Are you a spy? Not spy.
Not spy.
You
And
don't need a spy.
Yeah.
All you have to do is come to Florida.
Yeah. And I know it did seem to a lot of people like I was just being coy about the whole not spy thing, but that was just sort of how it came to me in my head. Like it started off as me thinking it was the spy book, and then I just kept calling it the spy book, even though it ceased being that, like it at the very, very beginning, because that's just what my brain's like. They just get allocated sort of like pet names in my head, my books. So yeah.
Jay, do you have another question?
Yeah, somebody wants to know, how did you how long did it take you to write start to finish, and how long does it typically take?
This one was really fast. The first draft, the you know, which is the EJ has an idea and she just wants to write what she wants to write, and who cares if it's not truthful, and who cares if it's implausible, because it's an idea she has and she wants to write it, which is how most of my books are at the beginning. You know, who cares if it doesn't work? It was, from everything, it was about like a week or two. Like it was short. It was the quickest book I've ever written, because I was so enamored with the idea. Like I was madly in love with it, and I was having so much fun, because, you know, who cares if you know, Lexi would never actually take that home, or, you know, she, like, who cares? So it was really, really fast. Yeah, couple of weeks. I have to apologize. I wrote this like a while ago, in my sort of timeline. So the details are a bit. Usually it takes me, it varies. Usually it's a couple of months, sort of anywhere between 3 to 6, depending on how much Call of Duty I'm playing. You know, and how much I'm procrastinating, just by getting up and walking aimlessly around my house, because I'm just like, yeah, I don't get writer's block. I get what I call writer's apathy, where the idea is in my head and I can literally see the scene sort of playing out, and I know how I'm going to write it, and I'll write like she said, and then just literally just look at Reddit or something. Like it's like I'm yeah, just don't have the concentration span to just sort of keep, and then I'll sort of sit down for like hours and just like, you know, write 6,000 words to make up for it, thankfully. Yeah, so this one was definitely an anomaly, and I wish I could write all my books in a couple of weeks, because then I would be very prolific. Yeah, but probably very burnt out, I would say. So maybe the few months is a better idea.
Jess wants to know, did you watch any torture videos or the gas attack videos to be able to describe it so brilliantly? She got goosebumps. She could see it so vividly.
No, no, definitely not. And that thought never crossed my mind, honestly. Yeah, that was just imagination. You know, like, yeah, just imagining what would be awful, you know, what might happen, how would that feel, you know, like yeah, so no, definitely not, no.
I think it's better for your sanity as well to not.
Yeah, and probably like viruses, because I'm sure they're probably like in some weird dark web sort of place, yeah, where I
And-
don't want to go.
Ask Tell, what was that all imagination, or did you
Yeah.
YouTube that?
No, that was yeah, just imagination. Yeah, and a lot of hand wringing about medical stuff, and army stuff and American stuff, because I am neither of those things, or none of those things, none of those three things. Yeah, that was again, I think it's partly empathy, as well as imagination. Just how would I feel? How would, what's the logical next sort of step in this sort of thing, like next sequence of what's happening, what would happen next. So yeah.
I've got
Sorry,
one.
this is not coffee, it's hot chocolate, because it's too early for coffee, so my brain's just sort of slowly started gently shutting down.
Oh, good. Have you ever considered basing a book in Australia or New Zealand?
No, never. And the reason for that is the market is mostly in the US. Yeah, so, and I've found that, some people do want to read, Australian authors with books set in Australia, but overwhelmingly they would like to read something that they identify with and that they feel comfortable with. So that's why. I doubt I would ever do that. And also I think it's unfair to ask Abby Craden to do an Australian accent for 10 hours times 2 for 2 characters. So sorry.
Has you got one, or should I keep going?
As you see, there's an awkward pause.
I
What did you say, Jade?
said, do you have one, or should I keep going?
I have one.
ahead.
Different from D-Rox wants to know, how do we get Alone made into a movie?
I don't know. I have no idea. Unfortunately, that's outside of my sort of my job. Ask someone who makes Sapphic movies, maybe.
Crowdfunding?
Yeah, crowdfunding. I honestly have no idea. So would be cool though. Although I think it'd be interesting how to. I think of all of my novels, like Alone would be the coolest as a movie, but it would also be the most difficult as a movie, because a lot of it is so internal. But I'm sure there's a professional out there who would love to take it, but unfortunately I don't know who that is.
Which one of your books would be a good movie?
I have to say like Gold, because it's skiing. I've always thought Ask Tell series would be a good short, like single season television series. I don't think it would make a good movie. I think it would need to sprawl into a television show. I don't know. I mean, I think most authors can sort of say, hey, I think all my books would make great movies. And I think you could get a decent movie out of them, out of all of mine. Yeah. Which again, sorry, that's a cop out. It's like all my characters, all my books are great movies.
Jade, you had more?
Yeah, I've got one that says, how do you make a place that you've never been look, sound, and smell authentic if you've never been there?
With a great deal of stress and anxiety. It's Google mostly. It's a lot of Googling, like yeah, and occasionally I talk to people who live there, but more often than not I don't, which ties back to me not wanting to ask people to help me, which is something I should really get over. But you end up Googling the weirdest things, like when did delphiniums flower in Virginia? Like, who Googles that? And that was just for a literal throwaway line of Sophia having recounted that she spoke to her mum and she said something about her flowers still blooming late. It's being an author is really weird. But it's just Googling a lot, a little bit of Google Maps, Street View and that sort of thing. But yeah, and it's something that I'm always very, very conscious of as a non-American person, but also someone who doesn't live in any of these places and has only just visited a few, is making it seem authentic. I was fortunate in go around to speak to someone who lives in LA, and they sort of pointed out something that would seem obvious to most people, but like Google Maps says you go this way, but you would never go that way because it's like little things like that. So that's where having a real person definitely helps. So I just need to cultivate contacts in every single city in the world. So it's going to be tough. It might take some time.
Jade?
I have a couple more, but I want to be aware of the time. EJ, do you have time for one more question?
Yeah, I got nothing. It's Sunday. I'm just going to pretend to read through Leverage while looking at Reddit.
I've got one that's how did you craft these main characters, and what do you focus on to make sure that they feel real, like three-dimensional?
I think with Lexi, one thing that came out really, really early on, which I think was part of the reason why I shelved this book for a little while, was that she came across as a real, like, smartass, irreverent, like just almost not someone who I would picture in this job, but I just couldn't not have her that way. It didn't work for her to not sort of be like a little bit, irreverent, a little bit sort of, just brushing things off just as a coping mechanism. Because I would imagine if you see horrendous things every day, then you'd sort of find ways to sort of deal with that. So I've already forgotten the question, something about crafting characters, sorry.
Making the main characters feel three-dimensional and
three-dimensional, okay. Yeah, so and with Sophia, she needed to complement Lexi. She needed to be soft, and she needed to be caring. So she was, her main, I mean, if you strip all the emotion out of it, her main role is a support post. She's holding up the house. So she was a lot easier to write because she was just, it's really easy for me to write sort of a soft character. I love little gooey characters, sweet characters. So yeah, so that's sort of how those two sort of came about. And how do you make them three-dimensional? I think part of it is the first person. I think it's very, very easy to give a reader a character and a personality of a character if you put the reader inside that person's head, and have them, feeling everything that character's feeling, and have them, seeing it and being privy to those thoughts and whatnot. So that's, I think, what it is mostly just the first person point of view for me, and just giving the reader everything that the character has in their heads, to a degree. Obviously, like, you don't sort of get like everything, like, hey, I thought I need to pee, like, they don't want to know that, like, like just the emotional sort of stuff you give them. Yeah.
Absolute last question. Okay. Is that okay, EJ?
Oh yeah, I got time for a couple more.
Okay. Would you have taken the plane ticket and run away from Lexi?
I'd like to say no. I'd like to say I would have stayed. And that was another sort of roadblock that I had was, one, why would she go with her? You know, and two, why would she stay once she found out the truth? And I really wanted to sort of portray that they had a really intense connection from the beginning, you know, and that being in a high stress environment like that just amplifies your feelings and stuff like that. I think if I was in the exact situation and I had all those feelings, then I would probably have stayed. But if it was me, I would probably be like, good luck. You know, I think you're great. Maybe we can meet up again. I like you a lot, but this is just a bit too much for me at the moment. So.
All right, we've got one last question.
The absolute last.
This one's the absolute, okay.
Would you ever connect your books or series by having characters meet, like outside of a series? So would you ever bring characters?
Probably not, no. I think because they're so I want to say disparate, separate. You know, they're all I just can't see how they would, honestly. I did have a vague, like the vaguest thought when I was thinking about not a sequel to Turbulence, but I thought, you know, everyone, I get a lot of, are you ever going to write a sequel to every book that I've ever written, basically? And mostly the answer is no. But then I sort of thought, oh, Turbulence, yeah. And then I thought, well, you know, Audrey's mum's Italian and Olivia's Italian, you know, maybe they're cousins. And I'm like, but like, how would I, you know, they're two completely different worlds, like two completely different novels. Like, how do you mash those things together? So no, I don't think that I would do that. I think the closest anyone would ever get to having all of my characters or some of my characters in the same place is I did have like a Where Are They Now anthology type idea of some short stories, you know, for all of my novels, you know. But then I thought, like, when do I write that? And then I write another book after it, and then those characters miss out on the Where Are They Now? So where do I sort of draw the line for that? So it just keeps getting like pushed further and further out. So maybe that'll be like my final work for all time is anthology that's like this thick, of everybody's like true happily ever after. Yeah.
Well, I hope that's a long ways out.
Me too.
Okay. Mindful of the time, because some people might have plans later today. Thank you so much for joining us, EJ, and for taking the time to answer all our crazy questions. I hope you enjoyed it yourself.
I did, yes. Thank you everybody for coming along and having a chat.